Hello, everyone. Welcome to this new webinar. Today, we are here with attorney Ruby Powers from Powers Law Group, and we're going to talk to you about employment-based green cards. So Ruby, she is a board-certified immigration and nationality attorney, and she has been licensed since 2008, and she founded the firm in November of 2009. So Ruby, the word is yours.
Thank you, Maria. Hi, everyone. We wanted to talk about this because a lot of people want to know how they can get to a green card through employment. And there's a lot of different ways, actually. And so we're going to walk you through. It's very high level, doesn't take the place of legal advice. Want to give this information, and then you definitely have a consultation for your evaluation of your own particular case. So there are several ways in which a person can get legal permanent residency, which is the technical term, but we usually use green card because the card used to be green a long time ago through employment. And so there's a couple of different preferences. And so it's not just employment based, but also investment based. So the first three we're going to talk about are EB-1, 2, and 3. And once you have a visa available by however means that you obtain these this preference visa, then you have to wait till the visa is current before you can apply for what we call adjustment of status. So one thing to note is that regardless of whatever a green card application you're applying for, you need to have an underlying visa that is still valid if you want to remain in the US. And a majority of these opportunities can be obtained even if you're outside of the country, if you need to be outside during part of it. So we're going to talk about the first 5 preferences. And so as you can see on the visa bulletin, this is April 2024, that you need to first look to which country are you looking for underneath all chargeability areas: China mainland, India, Mexico, or Philippines. The reason why China mainland, India, Mexico, Philippines, there's just a lot more demand. And so some of the visa wait is a little bit longer in some cases. So you look to the country in which you're using, and then you also, which is generally the nationality, citizenship of the individual. There are some ways to use another country in some circumstances. And then you look to what preference we're talking about in the visa bulletin. So first, from all chargeability, for example, C means current. So second, from all chargeability means that they're working on petitions that were filed January 15th, 2023. So that means if we're talking in April 2024, then that means there's a little bit over, 13 or 14 months of a backlog. And so when there is a backlog, sometimes you can premium process the petition to get a decision, but it doesn't make the visa get to you faster. Your visa priority date is based off of when you file, and then that'll be your priority date. So as you can see, in some cases, there is a bit of a backlog, and those are things to consider when you're looking at this. So once you do get the ultimate visa available, then you can apply for legal permanent residency, and you need to make sure that that form is I-45, that you were inspected, admitted, or paroled, you're physically present in the US when you file, that you're eligible to receive that visa. The visa is available to you, as in it's current, as we say. And depending on what the requirements are for that green card priority or preference, there could be certain restrictions that like the job is still exists or you plan to accept it, certain things. It depends on that priority preference. And then there's also you need to make sure you have no bars to adjustment, like working illegally, for example, or certain crimes or a certain amount of unlawful presence, and that it would merit favorable exercise. Now, once you do have a visa available and you file for adjustment, you can include spouse and minor children under 21 that can be included and same-sex marriage is recognized in the US, and so that would be allowed as well for the application. And so these are things to consider. But you can also apply for the advanced parole document when you're applying for adjustment of status, and also the work authorization. They recently changed the filing fees in which that you have to pay for each individual one, as opposed to it all being included in the I-45 fee. So that's something to consider. Now this is really what is important because we're going over each preference just so you have a general idea. So the first preference are priority workers. And so if the immigrant has extraordinary ability in the science, arts, education, business, or athletics, or an outstanding a professor or researcher, or a multinational executive or manager. So, for example, the extraordinary ability, we could see someone who was on an O, maybe they're at 3 years at a time. Maybe they had it for a couple of times, like 3, 6 years, whatever. And then now they qualify for the EB-1A. That's an option. The other thing with the multinational executive, for example, a traditional path is that you have the L1A for a while, which is a max of 7 years, and then you go for the leap for the green card, and then you apply. And then you want to make sure that you apply for the green card, you have enough time before your L1A time expires, but you can always recapture sometime if you are outside the US at some point. So these are just some examples, the EB-1 preference. Now, EB-2, members of professionals holding advanced degrees or have an exceptional ability. And this also includes some national interest waivers. Now, the national interest waiver, what they're meaning is they're waiving the job requirement of a labor certification. And in fact, you don't even have to have a job offer for that. There's been a huge push for national interest waivers the last few years. They've gotten a little bit less restricted in some ways. And in fact, we just saw a lot being filed, and we're busy along these lines. But then what we also saw, and then they were opening up more premium processing for this, but what we also saw was that it got a little bit backlogged because there was so much demand. And so what's really important when you're looking at this is that do you have enough status that'll cover the visa to being available? And if not, you might have to leave the country to wait for the visa to become current. And so those are some things you have to consider because this got backlogged a lot this last year, and it was sort of a surprise to see how much so. Now, the third preference, we're talking about skilled workers whose jobs require a minimum of 2 years of training, not temporary, or professionals whose job requires at least a bachelor's degree and are members of profession or other workers. And so this also can take a while to do the I-140 process and the perm process. And so these are some things to consider. You need to make sure you have enough status. And the other thing about an H-1B, for example, is that when you do have a perm pending in the I-140 filed, you can continuously get the H-1B extended while you're waiting for the visa to become current. So there are some ways that can continue to allow you to stay here and extend your underlying visa while you're waiting for the green card visa and preference category to become current. So fourth preference, we're usually talking about religious workers, special immigrant juveniles, certain members of the U.S. Armed Forces, the sort of the Afghan and Iraqi translator. And so this is another category and also something to consider, but this is the fourth preference category, can include all of these. And so you have to monitor the visa availability. Now the EB-5 is for this is an investor visa, and this includes, like we mentioned, spouse and unmarried children. You need to make sure you have the requisite investment in a commercial enterprise. It could be a business you start from scratch, or it could be investing in a regional center. And then you need to look to the priority date and to see, you need to make sure you can prove that you created 10 permanent full-time jobs with qualified U.S. workers. And so as you can see on the visa bulletin, for example, that there is it's current for almost everything in the all chargeability, but it is, and the fifth preference actually has been divided out into more sections. So you can see that it's for the most part current, except for China, mainland unreserved, and including the C5, T5, I5, and R5, as well as India, there's a backlog in the same category. So that's just something to consider for the fifth preference. But for the most part of all the ones we just spoke about, most of EB5 is current and a lot of the first preference, but everything else is not. So that means you need to have a plan to maintain your status while you're waiting. Now, this was super high level and quick. We just wanted to give you a bit of an idea of how things work. Please give us a call and reach out to us to discuss more. You can reach us at our phone number, 713-589-2085. Also, we have a newsletter in English and Spanish every other week. You can reach us Facebook, X, Instagram, TikTok, and we're open to any videos and content. For this month, we are also going to be talking about the I-601 waiver for provisional waiver, what to expect with a visa interview, and the O1 extraordinary visa. So we've got a lot of great things in store for April. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time. Please feel free to subscribe, share, let other people know about us, and thanks for watching.